We continue with the study of the theme for this quarter, rebellion and redemption, and this week we look into global rebellion and the patriarchs.
And now that we have established that there is a new order on the planet Earth, the question remains, is that it? Is this the end of it? And what happens next?
It's just the beginning. Deception and broken relationships develop to a whole new level. The lesson is looking into Cain and Abel, the flood, Abraham, Jacob and Esau, Joseph and his brothers, all in attempt to follow how the conflict spreads and diversifies over the globe.
And people say that there is always a first time for everything. For Adam and Eve, it was their first son, Cain, who introduced them to parenthood. With him also grew the big hope for deliverance, since God promised to send them a man. But also thanks to Cain, for the first time they have experienced death in their home. I can't even imagine how they felt when their son Cain killed his brother Abel. So I'm asking myself, were they bad parents? Or was it that they just realized that everything was out of their control now? Somewhat other power was moving the waters.
There are so many questions, hopes, deceptions. Where did this boldness in Cain come from? And another point, as the author puts it, worship becomes the catalyst for discord and death, a recurring theme throughout history.
If the rebellion in the garden has definitely taken over something, it is the relationship between people, husband and wife, parents and children, brother and brother, sister and sister, etc. From when man knew good and evil, the damage was already done. And further on in the lesson we talk about a few other stories, few other examples of broken and corrupted family relationships.
The idea about the flood as partial reversal of many of the things that God had separated, like waters above and below, land and sea, the fish, the birds, and all living creatures coming together, is interesting. Then the new creation based on new separations, like Noah and his group, to continue life based on God's grace. However, the struggles continue.
The lesson makes an interesting point when it comes to Abraham. What happened to him when sacrificing his son Isaac has happened for the demonstration of Abraham's faithfulness before the heavens. It was not only an earthly experience, an earthly example what Abraham did, but the whole celestial world was carefully watching if God's claims were credible.
It also helped him grasp the concept of the substitution,
That's
God's willingness to take the consequences of our rebellion.
The lesson started with a sad and destructive story about two brothers, and the last two parts of the lesson ends with two brotherly stories. In the first story about Jacob and Esau, the brotherly bond is broken by the strong desire for primacy and lust for privileges. Am I going to respect and accept my brother's rights and privileges, or, judging by my own sense of fairness, I can enforce a plan and grab what's so much desired by my heart? Jacob couldn't stop himself.
It's amazing how small things can create eternal dramas. Brotherly love with personal ambitions and desires, multitude of games, tricking each other, finding sometimes just political peace. We have material for perpetual soap operas here. We also see, though, the relationship that God is trying to build with Jacob, even going through a physical battle with him. And we see Jacob going through challenges, limping because of his encounter with God. With the rebellion, we also see God's patient work for our redemption.
Even more complicated was the story between Joseph and his brothers. Jealousy, strife for power, naivety and unfairness and what-not are just simply the emotions that burst out from the events that unfold. I wonder, how does one juggle so many multi-directional relationships and interests as it was for each and every one of the 12 brothers? I don't think it's been easy for them, honestly. But after all, the complexity of sin seems to be so deep already at that time that we can be surprised if there wasn't any evil or hateful results. Ironic, isn't it?
Favoritism. Humans love, even with the best intention, can set things up for disaster. We can learn a lot by studying our relationships and becoming better at them. We should do that. But we have to admit, it's much bigger than what we can handle. Also, through our relationships, we can experience and understand the great controversy better. Joseph saw the great controversy being played in his life in a dramatic way.
Do we strive to be different in this world? Why don't we act a little bit more faithfully, a bit more accepting and respectful of others? Then probably the rebellion will be under control, of course, with the help of God.
And let's keep our mind open for the path of redemption that is being built along the development of our rebellion.